How to find love in middle life. A guide to finding love for the midlife woman. Module 2. Introducing midlife men as chess pieces. Chess is a game of skill and craft. The game of chess has been around for at least 1500 years. Ideas don't persist and survive for long unless they contain some deep truths. Maybe one of them is how women can sort out and manage men, at least in the second half of their lives. If that is the case, we need to look more closely at the character of the only woman on the team, the Queen. As we have noted in the earlier module, the Queen is the most powerful piece. She has the broadest and longest view of the game. She has to watch where all the other pieces are, so they support her. She's not a prize for men to compete for, as is so often the case. She's both a formidable foe and a powerful protector. You don't mess with her. The point I shall be making over and over in this course is that the Queen is the most important piece on the chessboard, and that also applies to the midlife woman. She has experience and maturity and wisdom, and these will stand her in good stead if she recognizes that she has these advantages. In midlife relationships, the woman needs to understand her partner and what is going on so that she can take the lead. The midlife woman needs to take control of the game and use her power and skills to get the outcome she wants for herself and her partner. In chess, we can see how the Queen exercises her power. The Queen can move in 8 directions. From any point on the board, she can go forward, backwards, sideways, and diagonally. Not only can she move, but she can also exercise influence in all those directions from a distance. This means from any position, she can control the board and the game. How would it be if you felt as powerful as the Queen on a chessboard? Once you understand the characters of the other players in the midlife love game, know what they want and can predict their likely behavior, then you can become that powerful woman who can manage them and control the game. Let's find out more about these men that she has to play with. Later in the course, we will relate them to the types of men you are likely to encounter in the game of midlife love. As we shall see, they all have their strengths and weaknesses. First up, the knight, or Mr. Hopscotch as I've been calling him. He's a bright, cheery fellow, charming and immediately attractive. He loves adventure and the prospect of excitement and talks about them all the time. He is creative and clever. This makes him foolhardy at times. He does not like to be stuck and unable to move. He hates being bored and is always on the lookout for new adventures. How does he move on the board? He moves 2 squares forward and 1 to the side, in any direction. This makes him unpredictable as he can turn up in so many places, which can be an advantage, but it also means you cannot rely on him to be there when you want him. In terms of character, his positive features are that he's likable and attractive, optimistic, cheerful and fun, and talented and ingenious. On the other hand, he's impetuous as he chases after his latest impulse. He can be tripped up by his own cleverness, and he gets depressed when things are not going his way, but then bounces back. Does this character ring any bells for you? We will be looking at how these characters play out in real life later in the course, but I want you to start thinking about these chess pieces as real midlife men, maybe ones you know or may have known. In real life, the most obvious characteristic of the knight is the way he jumps about and can turn up in so many places, but also that means you can't be sure when he's going to be where you need him or expect him. Now let's go on to examine the bishop, Mr. Deepwater. Initially, he can come across as attractive as the strong, silent type. He's like the politician who spends time working things out in his head before he speaks. He wants to know what's going on, and he's attracted by others who have power and money, and he also attracts power and money as he gets older. How does he move? He moves diagonally in any direction. He exercises power and influence obliquely or indirectly. He likes to watch and influence from a distance. He places himself where he can pounce when the time is right. His character On the positive side, he's charming and persuasive. He's persistent and reliable. He is usually very clever and thinks before he speaks. On the other hand, he keeps things to himself to give himself more influence. He's secretive and suspicious of most other people, and he acts deviously to get what he wants in an indirect way. In real life, do you see any similarities to anyone you know like this? He is a river that runs deep. He plays his cards close to his chest and likes to surround himself with mystery. He's very careful not to reveal his weaknesses and keeps his defences up. Moving on, we come to the rook, also known as the castle, and by me as Mr. Straightforward. He is sturdy, solid, and reliable. He likes clear guidelines and security. He likes to know where he stands. He will follow orders and procedures to the letter. How does he move? Well, on the board, he moves in straight lines and squares. He can watch and protect the full length and width of the board. In the game of chess, he is a very good piece to use as a guard or defender, and you can rely on him to hold his ground. What's his character like? He is dependable, loyal, and supportive. He likes to see things done correctly, and he's usually skilled with his hands and good at DIY. On the other hand, he can be lost without procedures and instructions to follow. He can be unimaginative and be lacking in initiative. His response to things can become predictable as he grows older. Any real life hints? You're bound to know someone like this. Once he moves into middle life, he settles down and likes to concentrate on doing a few things very well. These become his preoccupations, and he's not keen on moving outside those areas, which you might call his comfort zone. On to the king. The king I call Mr. Dreamweaver, because he's a visionary and a dreamer. He is enthusiastic and passionate about his ideas and schemes, but he can't look after himself very well. He does encourage the queen, but doesn't do too much to help her. On the board, he can move in any direction, but only one square at a time. He moves slowly and cautiously. He is vulnerable and cannot defend himself from being put in check by any piece on the other side who is 2 or more squares away. If he is trapped and cannot move out of check or be protected by sacrificing another piece, then it is checkmate and his side have lost the game. For this reason, the queen has to watch the king carefully at all times and ensure he is safe to keep the game going. And the king's character. He is gentle and benign. He has big dreams and hopes, and he is passionate about his mission. On the other hand, he is slow-moving and vulnerable. His attention is often not on the game, and he is not very practical. Real-life hints. Kings are usually moulded over time by a queen who has seen the potential for him to become a king. He is like a father figure to the queen, and she is very protective towards him. Kings do not usually do well on their own. They need a woman to look after them. Now we come to the pawns, who I've called friends of convenience. They are like servants to the queen. She has 8 of them at her command, and she uses them to do jobs for her. On the board, pawns have very little power in the game. They move forward 1 square at a time, but they can take other pawns and pieces diagonally. The queen uses them to create diversions and protect herself and the other pieces, but she will sacrifice them when necessary in the long-term interest of the game. Real-life hint. These are miscellaneous friends and others who admire the queen, but are not contenders for her serious attention. She will take an interest in them and use them when it suits her, and dump them when necessary. The queen can feel crowded by the pieces and pawns as they compete for her attention. The queen has to take control of the game and manage the pieces by positioning them where she wants them to fulfill her plans. The same is true for the midlife woman in real life. If she doesn't take control of the men in her life, they will do their own thing, ignore her wishes, and walk all over her. So, looking at the pieces, who do we recognize? I said I would like you to check the validity of what I have been saying by seeing if you can recognize any of these characters. As you read through the descriptions, did you think of men you know or have known who would fit into any of these categories? If so, I invite you to write down or put in your phone the names of those people and the characteristics you recognize. Don't worry if you're not coming out with many examples yet. Later in the course, you will learn more about them and how to recognize these characters in real life. You will also learn how to select and manage your relationships with the type of midlife man most likely to meet your needs. However, before we do that, we are going to look at the different kinds of love we experience through life, what I call the seasons of love. We will look at what kind of love relationship is likely to meet your needs in middle life and beyond. We help you to define what kind of person can give you the lifestyle and love style that you want. We've now reached the end of Module 2, and I look forward to seeing you in the next module, Module 3, which is called The Changing Face of Love.